Hey guys, welcome back to 22 Elevate. My name is Tip and I am your storyteller for today. Today we're going to talk about karma, and then we're going to actually, before we talk about karma, I wanted to tell you a story about how my online bank account got hacked. So I actually got a call from the scammers and they were like, hey, you have some fraud showing on your account, and I just wanted to see if you recognize this name. They tried to Zelle money out of your account, and they're like, yeah, the name's Michael Hasburn. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know him. So they're like, okay, this is a fraud transaction. We're going to clear it out, and since your username and your password was compromised, we're going to have to deactivate that account. And mind you, this call came from the right phone number of the bank, because I've gotten fraud calls from the bank before and it came from this number and it says the bank name and everything. So I'm like, okay, we're cool. And so he goes, okay, your username is blah, 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 blah. So he actually said the username out loud. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he was like, okay, so I'm going to deactivate that right now. And right before he did all that, like when he did the call, I logged into my account to see if there was any kind of fraud, because I do that every time. And there was nothing. And last time there was nothing either. Like, it didn't show it because they had stopped it before it actually went through, so it doesn't show on the account. So I was like, okay, nothing's showing on here. So he goes, okay, I'm gonna set you up with another department and they're gonna redo your username and password, because this one I deactivated it because it was, subject to fraud. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So I get transferred to another guy. And he goes, okay, so we're going to do a verification before we go through this. And that's when my red flags kind of went up, because I was like, well, I just talked to this other guy, so why would I need to go through like verification? Like, and the other guy didn't do any type of verification. He, zero verification, just the username, but he didn't really ask me. He just like told me, this is your username. And so the guy goes, what's your mother's maiden name? And I was like, in my head, I was like, well, I never used that for anything, so there's no way that it would be that question. And so I ended up giving him a fake mother's maiden last name, and I kind of mumbled it. So I was like, and he was like, I'm sorry, what was that? I'm like, I forgot what I actually said, but it was like slurred like that. And he was like, can you spell it? And I'm like, no, I don't remember how to spell it. And then he moved on to the next question. And I was like, okay, that's weird already, because you don't move on to the next question. If they don't pass this, then they didn't make the verification, right? So he moves on to the next question, which was like, where did you work in like 2017? Like, how did you come about this account? Because that's when I opened my account. And he said that, and I was like, I acted like I didn't know what he was talking about, and I was like, I don't understand the question. And he was like, where did you work? Like, where did you work in 2017? And I was like, I don't remember where I worked, even though I did. I was like, I don't remember where I worked. And at that moment, I was just like, okay, yeah, this is not good. I'm gonna hang up. And so I hung up, and I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, I'm just going to call them back, because it's always better to call them instead of them calling you. Like, if you have any kind of questions, like I usually do that with any type of one. It's like, hey, let's just call them back, right? And I was busy yesterday, so I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm just going to go to the bank in the morning and handle this, because it's not urgent to me. If it was actually the bank and they stopped it, it's not urgent right now. So I was like, okay, I'll go to the bank in the morning. So in the morning I did. I went to the bank and I talked to this lady, and she was super nice, and I told her the story, and she was like, actually, that kind of sounds like us. That probably was us. And I was like, okay, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I like the in-person better. And she's like, yeah, I totally get that. So she calls the fraud department, and she's checking the account. She prints me out a statement, and as we're going through it, there wasn't any fraudulent charges because the bank had already stopped it. Oh, I forgot this one part. So the the previous caller, they actually called me like once or twice afterwards. And then I got an email later on from the bank saying that there was an attempted Zelle transaction for like Alexis Reyes or something, but they stopped it. And then I got a call around 7:30, and the bank closed at 7. So I got a call around 7:30 saying that it was the fraud department and to call them back because they have suspected fraud. And so I was like, okay, that's kind of fishy because they're calling after hours, right? So when I was at the bank, we were talking to the fraud department, and it turns out that they called me one time, which was that 7:31 afterwards, because apparently the fraud department works 24/7, so you can call them at any time. The other calls, they were fake. They were from the scammers. So they spoofed the phone number and everything. They put their own, they put the phone number of the bank and everything on the caller ID to match. And they're like, yeah, that wasn't us. And they're like, oh yeah, good job for not giving them like too much information. Like, okay. And then they were like, oh, sometimes this happens because there's like malware or viruses like wherever you logged in. And I was like, I only log in on my phone. So I text Apple, because Apple has that cool feature now where you can text them, and he was like checking for malware and viruses, and he had me delete a few things and look up a few things, and it turns out there was crap on my phone. So he had me delete it and like do all the things to make sure that it wasn't going to happen again, or that it wasn't going to continue to happen. And so that was cool. And then for the bank wise, nothing actually got transferred out, which is cool. The bank totally caught it. But there was, they did successfully transfer some of my savings into my checking account because they were trying to Zelle it out. And so the bank gave me really good advice, which I'm passing on to you guys because I didn't know this. You can actually freeze your credit, because they're thinking that it was probably through Social Security and stuff like that, especially since there was that big Social Security number leak. So you can actually freeze your credit, and it's really easy to lock and unlock it now. Like before, it was really hard to do both, and now it's kind of like, you know how when you have your debit card and maybe it got stolen or lost or whatever, and you can go on the app and lock it. It's the same thing with your credit. So if you're trying to apply for a new credit card, you can unlock it, but then you can lock it when you're not using it. So I thought that was cool, and I thought that everybody should do that. I don't know why we haven't been more told to do that. I think that's really good information because we don't use our credit that often anyway. So why not just protect it? And you can call the credit bureaus. There's like 3 credit bureaus, right? But they suggested calling Experian and just calling them up. You can do it online too, but I think it's easier just to call them up. Call them up and have them set it up for you and everything, and then get it all done, and then your credit is solid, There's also like other companies like LifeLock and stuff like that, but this one's free just to call the credit bureau. Anyways, so that was my story, and I wanted to talk about karma, especially because of those scammers. Like I was thinking about them, and I found this experience kind of cool. Like my friends were like, isn't that stressful and like crazy and stuff like that? Even the bank, what do you call them? Bank tellers? They're not tellers. The banking person. She was like, I know this is like a scary time. And I was like, this is actually kind of exciting. Like, it's not that it's cool that people are scamming me. It's just, you see these things on the movies or TV and you're like, oh yeah, that's never happened to me. And then suddenly it happens to you and you're like, oh, this is interesting. Like, so I found it a very cool experience to see, even just to hear how the scammers work and then how the bank takes care of it. And like the bank even got like their IP number, their IP address and stuff like that. Just kind of cool, like how everything kind of got set. Anyway, so the karma is one of those things where people either believe heavily in it or they don't believe it at all. And it's okay if you're on both sides, or not both sides, but whichever side you're on. Doesn't matter. I like to use the word karma as the word consequence. because even Isaac Newton has Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. I think it's actually the opposite. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There we go. That's Isaac Newton's theory. Third law of motion. Wow, I cannot say that. And because every action has a consequence, I believe that we have used the word consequence and karma very interchangeably nowadays. We believe that it happens in this lifetime, whereas some cultures believe that it can happen in the past, now, and in the future. And it's okay what you believe. I am from the Thai culture, so the Thai culture believes that it's from the past, present, and the future. Past karma, meaning something that you did, good or bad, doesn't have to be always bad. It can be good. Good or bad from the past carries on to your present life. And that can be seen as, for example, my daughter. My daughter has special needs. She was born, before she was born, she had a stroke in the womb. And then after she was born, she had another stroke, is what the doctors had told me. And when you look at karma in that case, the kid hadn't even been born yet. Like, what karma could they have caused? Well, that culture believes that it was from a past life. It was karmic debt from a past life. And now that she's starting to get better, it is that debt has either been repaid, or we in this life have done enough good towards it, like paying towards that energy, to make it go away. And in Thai culture, you pray and you give thanks and blessings towards whatever you want. I mean, it kind of goes towards everything, but you can specifically say, for this purpose, for the purpose of releasing my daughter's karma. And because that is a belief in my family has always done that for her. So it could be like her debt has been paid off and now she's healing from that previous debt. And now in the present life, she doesn't have that past debt anymore, but she can accumulate more karma, whether it's good or bad, and then also carry it into the next life, right? Now, presently, we can see actions and consequences happen. Sometimes they may not happen right away. Sometimes it happens later, like the people that scammed. They may feel good about themselves at the time, but somewhere inside them, their soul is eating at them. And that could show up in many different ways. They could feel guilty without it necessarily coming up onto the surface. And that could manifest in their body. They could have aches and pains. They could be sick and they're like, why am I sick? They could have chronic fatigue and they're like, what the heck? And it was karma. It was a consequence of the action that they did. It could happen later. Like, if you did something bad 10 years ago and maybe someone came forward 10 years later and said, hey, this person did this to me. And then other people came forward and was like, hey, this person did this to me too. And now that person's in jail because of something that they did 10 years ago. I would definitely call that karma. And that is a consequence, right? So those two words can pretty much be used interchangeably. It's just how you want to look at it. Then there's the future. So some cultures believe that whatever you do here, like in this life right now, it is carried, that energy is carried to the future. So if you pass on and you've done so much good in your life, it is carried on to the future as well, because energy doesn't disappear. And it's okay if some of you don't believe in reincarnation. It is still energy put out to the universe. It's put out to the world. So energy is not lost. It is just put somewhere else. And the scammers, they may cover up with things that they buy. They may cover up with booze, they may cover up with drugs, they may cover up with partying, they may cover it up with an overexcitement and feeling of instant gratification and accomplishment for what they did. And like I said, I think that it will manifest in other ways, like their bodies and their minds and other ways like that. And some cultures also believe that it carries on in your family line too. So it's like generational karma. I hope that doesn't happen to them. I kind of believe in generational karma too, because generational karma is, someone else did something bad in your bloodline and you may be paying for it, but you don't have to. I think that can be released as well. And I feel like I have released a lot of that generational trauma as well, karma and trauma. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know that was kind of a different kind of segment than we have done before. And I am just so excited for your ongoing journey of life, and I'm glad to be here with you. By the way, our background is going to change in maybe 3 or 4 different videos because we are moving. So enjoy the tiger right here and enjoy the background for, actually, I've already started packing, so a lot of the stuff is actually gone. Like this shelf is gone. So I will see you guys soon. If you like this, please like and subscribe and all that stuff. And thank you so much, you guys, for over 100,000 subscribers. I couldn't have done this without you guys, and I appreciate you guys so much. Keep in mind, at the end of the year, well, towards like November, December, I'm going to be announcing a live event / virtual event that I will be hosting. So that would be fun. Keep your eye out for that. And as always, you guys can always go on Amazon and get your journals and things like that to help you with everyday life. All right, till next time. Bye.